Welcome back to Deal Flow Live. This is a special Thanksgiving week episode. On this show, we look at all kinds of business deals and we talk about them, but we're doing a little bit something different tonight. Tonight, we wanted to give you a quick little bite-sized piece of the thought processes that we've learned over doing this. We've been doing this for what now? Probably about 6 months or so. We've been doing this every single week where we look at business deals. Outside of this show, Ryan and I both very heavily look at deals all the time, whether it be business transactions, insurance policies. We're both very heavily involved in the alternative asset space and transactions in general. So we think about this stuff all the time. And tonight, we just wanted to share with you the top 3 lessons that we've learned about searching for deals. So I think this is going to be a fun one. Ryan, what was our main thought process coming into tonight and covering this?
So we thought about all the kind of lessons that we're thankful that we've learned over the course of this show, from reading books and bringing in theory into kind of taking that theory into the real world and finding what stuck, what doesn't, and kind of how everything becomes very situational. And the success that we've had because of our ability to pivot, change, and adapt to our situation and how that is. And also educating, because you learn the best when you're teaching and then going out and applying it and telling you guys, hey, that worked, or hey, don't do that. We didn't find it was really great. So this is a nice little episode to kind of give you guys a compressed version. If this is your first show, this is probably the culmination of the 3 most important things over the last 6 months that we have been trying to hammer home to everybody when we're on doing this show.
That's right. And so tonight we wanted to get into not only those top 3, but some anecdotes, some personal stories, some things we've gone through to tie it in and just explain how we've learned these things. So hopefully, whether you're someone who's currently growing a business where you want to sell it later and you want to think about how the other side's thinking, what kinds of things they're going to be looking at, or if you want to expand your business by acquiring other ones. Or if you're just someone who wants to buy a business to run it, to become a business owner, to change your lifestyle a little bit, I think this one will be really good just to give you an in-depth view of like what types of things you should be thinking. We sat down and we spent some concerted time and thought into what are the top 3 that really resonated with us. So Ryan, what's number 1?
So the first one that we have is on and off market deals are good. It's fine.
They're both good.
No wrong way to find a deal. And when we started the show, we were definitely like off-market deals, best deals all the time. And there's still a lot of good deals off-market that maybe won't get brought to public. But if you find a deal on a marketplace, then everything lines up. The numbers are good. The money is there. Well, then there's no reason not to go after. I mean, Brody, you've found some great deals for not only people, but you've also helped list some great deals on marketplaces.
Yeah. And so I wanted to tell a quick story about something that's going on for me right now that involves both an on and an off market deal. I have like the perfect thing going on to tie in both, because basically my partner and I right now are looking at a transaction wherein we would buy a business with SBA financing to combine it with another business that we're partnered with. And it would be a merger, basically just a merger of 2 companies in the same industry. One where it's very new, they've got great sales and marketing, but not much of a team or infrastructure. And another where they're very old, they've been around for over 20 years and they've got a nice solid team and infrastructure, but no marketing whatsoever, not really a sales process that we know of and can find, although they're doing well. So we'd be merging these 2 together. And the interesting thing is we found one of these off market and one of them on market. So the first one we found was off market and it was pretty simple. We just ran an email campaign in the local area, reaching out to businesses in the industry we knew we wanted to get involved in. And it went something like, hey, I saw your business and I was interested in possibly investing in it or acquiring it. And I just wanted to see if that's something you wanted to discuss. Very simple, straightforward, just to open the conversation and see if there was something there. And this one in particular, we happened to catch them at a good time where they were thinking about some of these things. And they gave us a call. And, now 4, 5, 6 months later, we've been working with them to help grow their business a couple different ways, just some light touches, bringing them some good ideas and some execution on some things. And they have now entrusted us with, that next step and told us that they are interested in growing through mergers and acquisitions, just because they know we've been involved in it before and have had some good experience. And so they told us, hey, go out and find a company in the same industry. Let's look at it and maybe work together on it. So then this other deal, in the same industry, we went on bizbuysell.com, and one day something came up where it was a small, good deal, just a business a little bit bigger than this other one, been around for 20 years. And it had someone managing the office, dispatching everyone that needed to be dispatched. It's a HVAC business. Then it had a couple technicians working full time that were going to continue to be working. And the owner had kind of set it up to just run low profit margin without him really being involved. And so for us, if we can put good sales and marketing onto that old business and take that team and use it to support this other business where they have great sales and marketing but no team, it actually makes a lot of sense. And so like Ryan said, ultimately you have a higher likelihood of finding good, more flexible deals off market. If you go off market, there's a lot less expectation there. You can be more flexible. A lot of times there's not a business broker that has a real stake in getting the most cash possible, and you might be able to find something that's a little more flexible that actually works better for you and the seller. So there's more openness there. But at the same time, if you're going for speed and you're really trying to find something specific quickly, and you don't want to waste a lot of time having conversations where you're kind of warming the person up to the idea of any kind of buy or sell activity, then on market is great, because you go on and you already know that they're actively trying to sell their business. So the conversation's easy. It's just, does it work out financially? Do we want the same things? Are you open to the kinds of terms I'm looking for?
Which I think is important to note. The story that he just told, that was when we started this show, none of that existed in any form. And as the show has progressed, so has Brody and his partner's acquisitions, actually. So if that's not a testament to living what we're saying, I don't really know what is at this point. And that's, as always with Brody, perfect segue into our second thing that we're thankful that we've learned, is that there are many ways to finance a deal and get creative. And that includes thinking about SBA. I mean, that doesn't sound like a creative way, but most people forget it exists.
So to give a quick intro to this for anyone who's not familiar with what SBA financing is, it's the Small Business Administration. This is a government-backed program where banks participate in this government-backed program to be able to finance either business expansion or business purchases, sometimes with real estate involved, sometimes not. And they do it at very, very favorable terms that makes it a lot easier to be a business owner and be in business. So it's a great way to take advantage of, an existing program out there to get involved in something that could really make you a business owner in a profitable and lenient kind of way. So to tell you what the usual terms are, if you were to go out and find a business that you want to buy for $500,000 or so, usually it's kind of like buying a home and putting down a down payment. Usually they're going to require you to put down 10-15% or so on that transaction of money that you bring to the table. But then the rest of it you get a loan for, and you finance that loan over 10 years. That's the craziest part. So that same $500,000 business, it's a high likelihood it's making, say, somewhere in the neighborhood of like $250,000 or so, if it costs $500,000. So if you're financing a $500,000 remaining payment, or $450 or so $1,000 remaining payment over 10 years plus interest, of course, it's probably going to be about $50,000 a year that you owe. But if the business is making $200,000 or $250,000, then effectively, as long as you don't mess it up and you can run that business the right way and keep it going, the business is paying for itself and is continuing to pay for itself. And you take the profit that's left over, you reduce your risk, and it makes it a little bit easier to purchase something if you don't have $500,000 sitting around, but maybe you've got 50.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing to mention about the SBA, is how flexible it is and how varied it can be. one thing to remember, though, is that the SBA is a very, very rigorous organization, and rightfully so. So when you're going through that process, they're going to take a deep dive into, everything that you have and that you're able to put up. But at the same time, they're not going to give you the money to buy just any business. They also have to approve of the business you're buying. So if you get rejected for an SBA loan because of the business you're looking to buy, you've probably just dodged a bullet that you didn't even realize was there. So whenever I see a listing on, Brody as well, whenever we see listings that say SBA approved, pre-approved, that's a big green flag for us, that the finances are in order and that everything is on the level that you want.
Yeah, and as frustrating as it can be, if you aren't approved for one and it's based off of the business and not your personal state, like Ryan said, there's probably some reason that went into the underwriting for the loan originator there, for the bank, whoever's in charge of either approving or not approving that. There's probably a reason that you don't know of, or that they do know of, that they're not approving that usually ties back to just a high likelihood that they won't get paid on the loan. And if they're not getting paid on the loan, you're defaulting. The government covers some of it as collateral. That's how the program works. But ultimately, you are responsible for paying that loan. And if you're not paying it, it's because the business is failing. So if they're not approving it, there's probably some reason why. And you could take that as a note that the business might not be as great of an upside thing as you think it is.
Yeah, take the gift of rejection and run, as I would say on that one. And I think that kind of helps us say, we've covered the how to find it, the ways that we figured out how to finance it. But I think the one thing that we've taken away most significantly from our experiences is that
before we get to that last one, though, I do have one other one that we can't leave out. We can't leave out seller financing.
Oh yeah,
so I know
we made our name on that one, I feel like.
So we talked about on and off market deals, and I think when you're going on market and there's a broker that needs to get paid, and the seller probably has certain expectations if they went to a broker and went through all that trouble, and they're very attached to the idea, you see sometimes that they're open to seller financing, and that's great. Take advantage of it if they are.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not, that's okay as well. You might be able to negotiate it. But seller financing can really kick in these off-market deals. Maybe you have been working in a business for a long time and you know the owner really well. They trust you and your work ethic, and they think that you could do a good job running the business. You might be able to seller finance part of the business, which simply means that the person selling the business becomes the bank. So that same $500,000 business, if they were seller financing, say the whole thing, for example, then they might just say, hey, pay me back for the price of the $500,000. You take ownership of it now, start making the money of it. You take over and start running it, but pay me in installments of maybe $100,000 a year. So pay me $100,000 a year, and eventually it'll be paid off. Something like that.
And for sellers, it's definitely a scary thought to have. But at the end of the day, if they can't make the payments, you write the contract where it says it defaults right back to you. You basically get your business right back, no questions asked. And also, you can still say you want some interest on it. So wouldn't you rather take the interest home than the bank? If you're in a position where you can, you may as well make 10% monthly on that money that you're getting returned.
It's true. And, it's just ultimately at the end of the day, it goes down to flexibility of getting a transaction done. Everyone has their own motivations. I think to leave off on a note for this one, I think the person that this is most ideal for is someone who's retiring and wants to sell their business because of that. Because usually they're looking for good, solid, stable cash flow in retirement that just helps them support their goals. So if you can tie them into, just receiving some cash flow over the next 5-10 years or so, I've heard it as big as 10 or even 15 in some cases, then you can give them a pretty good setup where they understand what kind of income they're going to make. It's also great for you if you're buying the business because you control your risk a lot. You make the business pay for itself. And the seller has some skin in the game for the business to succeed. If they want to get paid for those 2, 5, 10 years, or whatever it is, they're probably going to help advise you and make sure that it's still working. They're probably going to tell you how to treat Janet that's doing office management, right? They're probably going to tell you that you need to give her a gift once a quarter if you want her to be on her A game. Those little intricate details that help the business function. So just a good way to like kind of control your risk and keep a little bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, I think that's vitally important, and I can't believe we almost moved off of without remembering that, because it's all we talked about for the first month of doing this show. But
I'll say take the seller financing thing with a grain of salt, though, because there are a lot of internet gurus looking at you, Cody Sanchez, telling you, oh yeah, you could buy any business for $0 down with 100% seller financing. And the truth is that is probably 1 to 5 at the most percent of deals that ever happen. And if someone's willing to give you their business on 100% seller financing, they're probably so desperate to stop working in that business that it doesn't make much sense for you to take it over either. And if you attach yourself to the responsibility to have to pay, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the business is so bad that it makes them willing to do a deal like that, I would ask some questions. Unless you have a long-standing relationship, maybe it's a relative or something. Maybe it's someone who came from some crazy situation where you're actually doing them a favor, or they want to do you a favor. It's usually not going to be a zero money down kind of thing.
Yeah, and we have quite a list of things that we have where it's if you see this on YouTube, or if this thumbnail is trending, run far away from that as possible, because we've done those in real life, and boy, you get humbled real quick by some brokers and other people in the industry when you're coming at them with that 0% down talk. So, but it's good. We learned a lot, and there were a lot of gracious people who talked to us. So
now here's one final interesting way to get a deal done I'll kind of leave you guys with, because before we move on to the next point, because this is what we're doing right now, actually, is we actually have a very small private investor that is, so this SBA deal that we're looking at right now will require a cash down payment of somewhere in the neighborhood of like 18 to 25 grand. So we actually have a small private investor that's going to come in with about 30 grand for a combination of working capital for, getting ads and stuff running, but also for the down payment of the SBA loan. So they'll kick in for the down payment that's required for the SBA. They'll have limited partnership of the business where they have some equity stake if the business were to sell, but they're not really having to be involved in like the day-to-day management. But us as the people managing the business, we'd keep our risk down by not having to front this capital. And then we go get an SBA loan. So the personal guarantee is on us. The risk is on us for the vast majority of the deal. We have to be able to perform and keep the business running to be able to do it. But if you're someone who, has a way to get a deal done like that through SBA, and you maybe have some cash saved up, but you don't really want to put it down for this, and you have a private investor that wants to just get some passive returns and wants to trust you to get this play run, could be a really great way to get them involved.
For sure. And I can say safely that the investor's confidence in you, your partner, and the company that you're bolting this onto, which is more or less what it is, kind of a bolt on, it's rooted in the fact of there's a track record of success. There are tangible results that are proven, and the skill sets that each person brings to the table is something that are valuable in what is trying to be accomplished. So this wasn't just somebody who was like, I like your hair, kid. Here's a couple million. No, this was a built on success relationship that somebody is now saying, I think I can trust you with this much money.
It's true. And so that's the essential thing here. Like, as a kind of a side note here, you need to go prove some actual business prowess, whether it be as an employee or as a business owner, before you do something like this. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not just going to walk in off the street and become a business owner and get an investor to invest in you.
We tried.
We did try.
Tried a lot.
Well, and Ryan has had a great career before him. I have had a career before me. So we've accrued experience in different industries and areas coming into this. My other business partners, same thing. They've done stuff that relates directly and indirectly to these deals that we're looking at. I think it's really just about finding something where you can carve out your unique expertise and industry experience and utilize that in a way that is actually likely to make the business grow.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I think I don't think we missed anything, right?
No, as far as like financing a deal,
Can't think of anything else.
There are dozens of ways to finance a deal. That's the thing. We could go all night with the different ways to finance a deal, and there's so many unique mixes and ways to do it. But those are two really common ones, especially when you're looking at
the most accessible.
Those are the most accessible for the everyday person. You could always get an investor for the entire business and just take a small cut. That's like kind of the private equity model. So maybe you have someone cover the entire cost of the business, but you split the profits of the return. So if they help you buy a business for $100,000, then as soon as the $100,000 is paid back, anything on top of that, that's profit. Maybe you split 80-20 and they have, and you have a similar stake if you sell it and get profit there. There's a lot of different ways to do deals. So the biggest thing is read up on it, study different deals and how they've been done, and do your homework. There's a lot of different ways to do it that are all applicable to different situations. But with that being said, the third and final lesson that we have for the night for you, I think, is my favorite. This is one that Ryan thought of in the waking hours of looking into this for you guys. Ryan, you want to tell them what this lesson is?
Oh, yeah. This is one that we kind of, I think, between the two of us, we have probably close to 300 hours on BizBuySell, I think, if you were to log it. And one thing that we came to terms with through the phone calls and conversations is that you have to really look at these businesses and buy the life you want. And to that end, it's, are you buying a job, which is you're taking over a business and running it essentially with your own expertise, maybe with the owner, but you're in it? Or are you trying to buy something to work on the business as more of an investor, growth-minded individual, where you want a team in place, but you want to make the business grow more efficiently and larger? And that's a very important distinction that we talk about all the time on this show, is staffing, retention. What's the business mix of employees? I mean, it's very important.
It is. And there's two really distinct ways to do it based on what Ryan and I were talking about. It's either you're buying it to work in the business, or you're buying it to work on the business. That's kind of the two distinct ways that I see this being done. And there's benefits and drawbacks to both. If you're buying a business that is mostly operated by either a single owner, or the owner is heavily involved and there's a couple employees or something, that's something that it's going to take a lot of your time to run it. But you also might be able to find yourself like $100,000, $200,000 or more take home. You might be able to run something that's doing really well. And maybe you spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week working in it, but it's a lot more than you can make going and getting a salary working for someone else. Maybe you enjoy the time freedom that comes with it. I mean, there's not true time freedom in business ownership, I've come to learn. You are at the whim of whatever your business needs from you, but location freedom, perhaps. You might be able to work from home. You might be able to travel while you work. But when you buy something like that, and it's very dependent on the owner doing things in the business, you better be prepared to step in and take that role to make sure that however you finance the business, it's continuing to do well.
Yeah, and we found that the businesses where you have to be more heavily involved, you can definitely take a larger cut of that total home. And they also tend to be priced quite a bit under where you would see the normal multiples, because you are essentially saying, I'm going to jump in and take over the ownership of it. We don't necessarily look for those as much. We look for more businesses that are the buy to work on type. So we're seeing some larger numbers and larger multiples, and that take home is probably not going to be exactly what we would theoretically take home after installing management and all those things, but we're definitely not having to do 40 hours per business of what we're looking at.
Exactly. And I think when you're looking at a business as an investor, as opposed to someone who's working in it, the biggest thing that you have to be thinking about is how do you actually keep yourself from the business being dependent on you? Where does the buck stop as far as the operations is what I always think about. So is there someone currently in the business that's handling the actual day to day? So I'll give you an example. We talked about an HVAC business earlier. So HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Very common business that a lot of people are aware of. And the way that most of them are set up, at least these small businesses, where it's just a couple of technicians going out and doing the service, is that someone has to actually dispatch those people. They have to figure out where the jobs need to be done, send the people out to go do them, and make sure that they're getting there on time, doing what they need to do. Kind of a project manager altogether. They also need to process those actual leads coming in and however they're coming in, and be answering the phone, sending people around. They might need to be managing payments and invoices, collections, little things like that happen around the office. That's a lot of work, especially if you're doing, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 20 even jobs a day. That could be a lot of work. And in many cases, even with these small businesses, it's a full-time job, right? Someone's usually making $30,000, $40,000 a year or more to be doing that job. And even more than that, if there's a lot of technicians. And if you buy a business where there's not someone doing that and it's just a couple of technicians, then you effectively buy yourself a job. And that job might make you $200,000-$300,000 a year, but you better be okay with that. Alternatively, you might be able to buy one where, the one we're looking at right now, smaller on the cash flow size, runs at a little bit lower profit margin, but there's someone in the office taking all the calls, sending the technicians where they need to go, processing payments, handling all this stuff, so that when we're thinking about growing the business, we're thinking about how do we optimize the sales process? How do we make people a little bit more organized? How do we make marketing better? How do we strategically maybe find another small tuck-in or acquisition that grows this thing a little bit? Not, is Jerry going to get there by 3 p.m.? My God, this guy takes forever. Like, do we keep this guy on? Or you're not thinking about that type of stuff. You're not getting caught up with that type of stuff. You're not thinking about, man, is Janet going to pay her invoice for the job we did for her 3 days ago? You might still be thinking about that, especially if your office manager isn't on top of things. But the important thing is you've got to think about which one you want. And like Ryan says, you've got to buy the life that you want for yourself.
Exactly. I don't really think I could have summed it up any better. It's all about preferences and tolerances at the end of the day. So I think this has been a great episode. I think it's a nice little way to kick off the holiday season. I hope you've enjoyed our guests so far. We plan on having more people on, and stay tuned. We got a lot of cool stuff happening with what we're doing, what's going on, and the episodes are only going to get better. I'm really excited.
And you can find Ryan on LinkedIn at Ryan Santo MBA. You include the MBA because he should be very proud of it. He's a stud.
As you did.
You can find me, I guess, same thing.
Everywhere.
Also MBA. But you can find me on LinkedIn as well. My name. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the stuff. Pretty much the same name everywhere. Check our content out. Go watch some of the previous episodes. Look for ones where we cover topics that you're thinking about in your business buying or deal making journey. Let us know. Send us a message anywhere about topics you want to see covered. Maybe there's a business you're thinking about buying and it's listed somewhere and you want us to break it down, tear it apart, and tell you why not to or why to buy it. We're happy to do that. And let us know what kinds of topics you want us to cover on these special episodes that we do every once in a while. We'll try to do these every time something really strikes and makes us want to do a little bit of an introspection. But again, this has been Deal Flow Live. We do this every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I've been Ryan Santo, and of course, as always, we are thankful for all of you for watching us.
And I've been Brody Vinson, equally thankful, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.